discover the miraculous transformations in 2 Kings, revealing God's incredible plan of redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the land of Israel lay heavy under the weight of turmoil. The kingdoms quarreled, the hearts of the people sank into despair, and the murmurs of impending exile echoed like distant thunder across the hills. Into this shadowed landscape walked Elisha, the humble prophet, dressed in the simple robes of a servant of Yahweh. He traveled through the dust, burdened by the cries of his people, their faces etched with weariness and fear. Amidst the despair, tales reached his ears of a great commander from Syria, Naaman, a mighty warrior plagued by leprosy, a mark of uncanniness that robbed him of life's joys. Within Naaman's opulent dwelling, despair lurked along with the riches of his status. The noblest of men, once celebrated for his victories on the battlefield, found himself isolated, a shadow of his former self. Yet, in the quietest corner of his home, a young Israelite girl taken captive whispered an ember of hope. If only my master would go to the prophet in Samaria, he would heal him of his leprosy. Her innocent voice, though soft, pierced through Naaman's shroud of despondency, guiding him towards a flickering light amidst the chaos. With a heart burdened yet hopeful, Naaman set forth, adorned in royal attire, laden with treasures meant to barter for divine favor. When he arrived in the land of his captives seeking the prophet, he was met not by Elisha himself, but by a messenger bearing the prophet's words, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you." Confusion and rage ignited in Naaman's spirit. Are not the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean? His pride forced him to the brink of refusal, a battle of heart and spirit raging within. Yet a trusted servant witnessing his turmoil spoke gently, "My lord, if the prophet had commanded something great, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he says, 'Wash and be clean'?" It was in that moment of divine counsel that Naaman's pride crumbled, humility taking its rightful place in his heart. He yielded boldly to the prophet's command, entering the waters of the Jordan with a trembling spirit. As he plunged beneath the surface, a surge of faith washed over him, surrendering to the divine plan unfurling before his very eyes. And lo, as he emerged, the leprosy vanished, his skin restored to that of a child, pure, clean, radiant. The miraculous transformation rippled through Naaman. More than his physical health restored, his spirit cradled in the grasp of divine grace. Yet, not all was well. From the shadows, Gehazi, Elisha's servant, watched with an insatiable desire kindled by greed, yearning for the treasures Naaman had brought. As the land of Israel continued to grapple with famine and despair, Elisha moved amongst his people, revealing signs of God's enduring love. But apprehensions loomed as judgment whispered through the air. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Naaman returned, proclaiming the wonders of the one true God, his heart echoed with gratitude, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. Yet the land of Israel stood at a crossroads. Would they recognize the mercy extended through the prophet Elisha? Would they turn and seek the God who promises restoration? Time itself seemed to pause, holding its breath as hearts wrestled with the aftermath of divine intervention and the unyielding hope glowing softly like a star in a darkened sky. One simple girl's faith, one commander's obedience, intertwining to reveal a profound truth. God's redemptive plan was still alive, waiting for recognition as the shadows of exile neared. As Naaman returned, the news of his miraculous healing spread like wildfire through the villages of Israel. The people who had witnessed his afflicted condition now spoke in hushed reverence, their hearts stirred by the undeniable power of the God of Israel. Many of them began to flock to the prophet Elisha, yearning for the wisdom and favor they had seen work in their enemy's life. In his own heart, Naaman felt a heavy burden lifted, yet he recognized that true healing meant more than just the restoration of his body. With a heart transformed by gratitude, he sought to honor the God who had acted on his behalf. He journeyed back to Elisha's dwelling, determined to present gifts befitting a commander before the prophet. Yet Elisha, seeing Naaman approach, sent a messenger once more, stating, "Go in peace. You no longer need to pay for what you have received. Your faith alone has saved you." Conflicted, Naaman stood bewildered on the threshold, wrestling with the humility that had been instilled within him. His soul was heavy with the realization that no earthly treasures could repay the grace he had received. Bowing low, he declared, "Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Therefore I will bring an offering to Yahweh." And so he offered a portion of his wealth to the prophet. Yet Elisha steadfastly refused, affirming that the gifts of God could not be bought or sold. As Naaman departed, a transformation of spirit surged within him. The leprosy that had once marked his life served as a reminder of the depths of despair from which he had been redeemed. In gratitude, he requested something more profound from Elisha. "Please, let there be given to your servant 2 mule loads of earth, for your servant will no longer offer burnt offerings or sacrifices to any god but Yahweh." In the quiet of the moment, Elisha pondered the significance of Naaman's request. The earth of Israel was sacred ground. It carried the weight of the covenant promises made by God to his people. What Naaman sought was both a gesture of devotion and an alliance with the God he had come to know intimately. Ah, how the tides of grace could turn the heart of a once proud commander. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Gehazi felt the stirring of greed igniting within him. Observing Naaman's departure, the servant could not quell the desire that burned for the treasures left behind. He whispered to himself, "Surely there are riches here for the taking." And thus he hatched a cunning plan. Rushing after Naaman, he called out, "My master has sent me. He desires to offer you a gift of silver and garments from a traveling band of prophets." Naaman, filled with goodwill for the prophet's servant and unaware of Gehazi's deception, granted him more than what he sought. As Gehazi returned, triumph in his heart, Elisha awaited him with piercing eyes, sensing the deceptive winds swirling around his servant. "Where have you been, Gehazi?" Elisha inquired, his voice steady and authoritative. With a false innocence, Gehazi replied, "Your servant went nowhere." The weight of Elisha's glance bore down upon him, and in that moment Gehazi realized that his act of greed would draw the curse of leprosy upon him, as it had upon Naaman. So it was that a new chapter erupted in the history of Israel, one where the faithful were upheld, but treachery would meet its darker counterpart. As the shadows of judgment loomed over Gehazi, the profound truth loomed larger still. For the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. How God's plans would unfold was not yet known, but one thing was clear. The tapestry of his sovereign will was being woven with both miracles and the choices of man. What awaited in the next unfolding of this divine narrative? Only time would reveal the depths of God's redemption for his wayward people. As Gehazi stood trembling before Elisha, the air thick with tension and the weight of the prophet's gaze, Elisha's voice thundered with the authority of God himself. "Did not my heart go when the man turned from his chariot to meet you?" he declared. "Is it a time to receive money and garments, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever." In that chilling moment, Gehazi felt the cold grip of fate tighten around his soul. The very affliction he had coveted in others had now become his own, a bitter harvest from the seeds of greed he had sown. As Gehazi exited the prophet's presence, the dread of his new reality engulfed him, and the shadows seemed to deepen around him. Meanwhile, Naaman returned to his homeland, laden not with riches but with 2 mule loads of earth, a testament to the God who had healed him. With heart full of praise, he recounted his experience to his family and friends, proclaiming, "Truly, there is no other God but Yahweh." In the courts of Aram, his testimony stirred hearts and opened ears to the wonders unfolding in Israel, drawing men and women ever closer to the living God. But as Naaman basked in the warmth of newfound faith, the kingdom of Israel was fraught with peril. Kings waged wars, alliances were forged, and darkness loomed over the land. Elisha, though touched by the faith of Naaman, still bore the burden of prophetic duty. He knew the hearts of men were fickle, easily swayed by the allure of power and prestige. At this time, the king of Israel faced mounting threats from the armies of Aram, who sought to extinguish any glimmer of hope within the borders of the promised land. Elisha, sensing the impending danger, instructed the king, "Do not go up to the place of battle, for the Lord has revealed to me the schemes of your enemy." The king, perplexed, sought to dismiss the counsel of the prophet, but within his heart awakening fear gripped him. He had seen Elisha's power firsthand, the miracles that defied earthly understanding. Despite his pride, he chose to heed the warning of the man of God. However, not all were filled with reverence for Yahweh's words. In the darkness, Gehazi wandered the streets with the weight of suffering upon him, a leper now condemned to isolation. And even as he bore the consequences of his deceit, the world around him spiraled into chaos. He witnessed the growing animosity surrounding Israel and the choices of its leaders, days fraught with both divine appointment and human folly. Yet amidst the turmoil, Elisha remained resolute. He gathered the faithful, speaking encouragement and urging them toward prayer and repentance. "Return to the God of your fathers," he cried, "for he is faithful and just to forgive, and his mercy endures forever." Unbeknownst to Gehazi, his suffering carried within it the seeds of a greater calling. It was there, in the depths of despair, that God's sovereign plan awaited to take form. How the Lord would manifest his grace through anguish was yet unwritten, but the echoes of redemption called forth even from the shadows, for the trajectory of Israel hung tenuously between judgment and mercy, poised on the edge of a miraculous revelation. Would the hearts of the people soften to embrace the lessons learned through pain and betrayal, or would they continue on a course that could lead to destruction? A promise lingered in the air, pregnant with expectation. The very acts of treachery and sorrow could become instruments of divine grace. The story was far from over. God's redemptive purpose was on the move, and soon, the world would behold a testament of his unfailing love and power. As Gehazi trudged along the desolate path, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows that mirrored the heaviness in his heart. No longer was he a servant of Elisha, but a man marked by shame and disease, a living testament to the folly of greed. His thoughts wandered back to the moment when pride had led him to betray the prophet of God. "Why did I seek the treasures of this world when all I needed was the trust of my master?" he lamented, the bitterness of his choices biting deeper than any physical ailment. In the depths of his solitude, Gehazi stumbled upon a group of beggars clustered by the city gate. Hope flickered in their eyes when he neared, but upon seeing his leprous skin, their expressions shifted to fear. They recoiled, murmuring amongst themselves. Bereft of company and compassion, Gehazi felt the crushing weight of his isolation, as if walls of loneliness erected by his sins barred him from the love of God and man alike. Yet amid his plight, the winds of change began to stir in Israel. Word had spread of Naaman's miraculous healing, and a wave of stirring hope filled hearts across the land. The people gathered to hear Elisha speak, his voice rising like a clarion call. "O people of Israel, do not despair, for our God is a fortress and a deliverer. He has shown his wonders to the nations, and his glory shall not be hidden." Elisha's words ignited faith in the hearts of many, yet one remained apart from the crowd. In the shadows, Gehazi listened intently, his spirit wrestling with the echo of divine purpose that lingered in the air. Could it be, he pondered, that even in my misery, God has a plan for me? This question ignited a flicker of hope within him, and he resolved to seek forgiveness for his wayward heart. He knew he could no longer evade the weight of his sin. It hung around him like the leprous curse itself. As he staggered forward, he yearned not just for healing but for reconciliation. Elisha had been a father in faith, and the thought of estrangement clawed at his spirit. Meanwhile, Naaman, endeavoring to share his newfound faith, journeyed back to Israel to witness the land of blessings that had birthed his miracle. "Surely these people must know of the God who heals," he proclaimed to everyone he met, recounting the wonders he had experienced at the hands of Elisha. Naaman found his way to the prophet's house, filled with testimony and yearning to proclaim the glories of Yahweh. But as he approached, he sensed that not all shared his zeal. The soldiers of Aram stationed in secret began planning, emboldened by the murmurs of despondence from the Israelite ranks. "Shall we not crush this flame of hope before it ignites a fire?" they whispered in dark corners, plotting against both Israel and her God. Suddenly, an unexpected meeting transpired that would shift the course of events. Gehazi, filled with trepidation and faith, made his way to Elisha's abode. He knocked, his heart racing as the voice of the prophet beckoned him inside. The sight of the leper standing before him pierced the air with divine tension. "Gehazi," Elisha spoke, eyes piercing through the veil of despair. "What do you seek?" With trembling words, Gehazi unburdened his heart. "My sin has become my prison, and I seek not gold nor garments but the mercy of God." In that moment, a graciousness enveloped the room, and Elisha's next words held the power to transform not just one life, but the destiny of Israel itself. "Lift up your eyes, for even your affliction carries the breath of destiny. The time is coming when God's restoration will sweep through this land like a mighty river." As the sun dipped below the horizon, a promise lingered in the air, pregnant with anticipation. Could the God who restored Naaman also heal a broken servant? Would the remnants of betrayal become vessels of grace? The answer lay in the heart of God's sacred plan, waiting, watching, and working all things for good. And it came to pass as Gehazi stood before Elisha, the prophet's gaze remained fixed upon him, catching the weight of the burden he bore. "Gehazi," Elisha uttered with authority, "the Lord has heard your cry for mercy. Remember, it is not too late for the fragments of your life to be woven into his greater purpose." With these words, a holy silence embraced the room, and Gehazi felt the breath of the Almighty stir around him, invigorating his weary soul. The prophet raised his hands, palms open as if inviting the heavens to reveal their treasure. "Go, and wash in the Jordan 7 times, Elisha commanded, "and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." In that moment Gehazi's heart leaped within him, the flickering hope nurturing into a steady flame. A river? He wondered, recalling the voices that spoke of its muddy depths. But faith ignited within. He realized that any act of obedience could lead to restoration. "Even in the dirt of the Jordan God's cleansing flows," he murmured, steeling his resolve to heed the prophet's command. Meanwhile, Naaman, at the prophet's door, could scarcely contain the eagerness that pulsed through him. "Where is the healing of the Lord?" he declared aloud, recalling the waters of Damascus that had failed him. His heart burned to share the truth of his healing with a nation that languished in despair. But unbeknownst to him, a greater work was being prepared behind the veil of his circumstances. "Lord, what next?" Gehazi prayed as he exited the house, the rising sun now illuminating his path. He descended towards the Jordan, every step filled with trepidation and trembling hope. The waters glistened beneath the morning light, and as he approached, he beheld the tumultuous flow. "Can this be my rebirth?" he questioned, immersing his arm into the current, pierced by memories of greed and betrayal. Eyeing the waters, Gehazi stepped fully in, his heart pounding wildly. The first submersion was met with wave after wave of desire for forgiveness and redemption, the rushing current a reminder of his resolve to turn from all that once ensnared him. Emerging gasping, he braced against the loamy banks, but the pain of his condition lingered. Then, with renewed determination, he immersed again. 2 times, he counted, "I will submit to his will." Each descent, 3, 4, 5 times, brought him closer to the stroke of divine intervention, and with each reflection he faced upon surfacing, it was not just healing he sought, but the restoration the Lord promised. At the 7th plunge, Gehazi rose anew, feeling the warmth of the sun kiss his skin as the leprosy that marked him faded like the night before dawn. He felt his body, once frail and broken, transfigured. He gasped, tears of joy erupting from him. "I am clean," he cried, his heart bursting with gratitude. Could it be? Such mercy showered upon the wayward. In that instant, he knew his transformation was not merely physical, it was spiritual, a rebirth of covenant relationship. The sun gleamed upon the waters with a brilliance that spoke of God's unending glory. Gehazi turned back toward Elisha's home, heart alight with purpose, and hoped to be the messenger of God's miraculous acts. As he approached the city, where despair was heavy, there came an armed soldier from Aram seeking to truncate hope. But Gehazi, now restored and emboldened, would not just testify of his healing. He knew his voice would echo down the generations. As he prepared to proclaim the message of deliverance, a shadow loomed over the horizon, hinting at the spiraling darkness that sought to engulf the promise. For unbeknownst to Gehazi, an ancient prophecy stirring in the heavens began to unfold prophecy's role. And thus the stage was set for the clash of hope and despair, where God's sovereign hand would stretch across the nation. But in this moment, one truth echoed in his heart like a drum. The time is near when all shall witness the great deliverance of our God. How might God weave this unfolding saga into his redemptive tapestry? All eyes would soon be drawn to the light that pierces darkness, awaiting the revelation of his glorious plan. And it came to pass as Gehazi entered the gates of the city, that the murmurs of the multitude stirred like a tempest within him. The streets, once filled with shadows of despair, now seemed poised to witness the dawn of hope. Gehazi's heart raced, for he was now more than a servant seeking mercy. He was a vessel of the Lord's revelation. "Is it not Gehazi?" some whispered, while others shielded their eyes from the sun that shone like the very face of God on one who had been deemed unclean. The eyes of the people were upon him, searching for remnants of sorrow, yet all they found was radiance and the fervor of a soul reborn. He stepped forward, fingertips brushing against the warm stone walls of the pathway, every pulse echoing with an expectation that set his spirits ablaze. "People of Israel, gather close," he cried, his voice steady and unyielding. "I stand before you not as the man I was, but transformed by the grace of the Almighty. I was once a leper, shunned and forsaken, but now I am clean." A gasp rippled through the crowd. An electrifying bolt of disbelief pierced the air. What manner of healing is this, they pondered, voices mingling with awe and skepticism. Elisha's words resounded in his ears, guiding him forth. "You shall be my messenger." With a deep breath, Gehazi proclaimed, "The God of Israel, whose power knows no bounds, has restored me. Go unto the Jordan, immerse, and you too shall see his glory." Just as the crowd began to murmur, Naaman, the great commander of Aram, stepped into the throng. Fresh from his own encounter with Elisha, he brandished the message of deliverance like a banner of hope. "I too have tasted his mercy. I found healing in the waters where the humble find their exaltation," he declared, his voice a clarion call against the winds of disbelief. As the narratives intertwined, a wave of awakening comforted the hearts of the people, binding them in a moment of shared revelation. Could it be that redemption was not reserved for one, but for all who turned to him? They whispered amongst themselves, igniting the spark of faith anew. However, darkness loomed near as a dread shadow stretched across the horizon. A figure garbed in arrogance approached, the king's emissary, harboring ill intent. "What schemes are brewed here? Are the words of a wretched man to reveal power?" he sneered, his contempt a pointed dagger aimed at Gehazi's newfound light. Yet the boldness of Gehazi surged as he met the emissary's gaze. "What is impossible for man is possible for God. Your scorn is but a fleeting breath against the mighty wind of his purpose." The air crackled with tension, divine affirmation winding its invisible thread through moments of confrontation, echoing the ancient promise that was bound to God's covenant people. For in this season, the Lord would prepare a way for his people through this clash of foundations. Tremors from the confrontation revealed a hidden strategy in heaven's plan, and the people awaited deliverance as the clouds gathered above, in anticipation of the outpouring of the Lord's mercy. As Gehazi stood amidst the gathering crowd, He felt the stirring of prophetic promise within him, a deep calling to awaken the hearts of the people. "The time has come," he shouted. "Behold the manifestation of God's deliverance. Will you not take hold of his grace and walk into the waters of life?" And as he spoke, the ground trembled, for the hand of the Lord was moving upon the nation, weaving their destinies into his grand design, a redemption tapestry glowing with divine light, illuminating paths long hidden. What other wonders lay ahead as the heavens prepared to pour forth a revelation of his incredible plan? And it came to pass that in the midst of Gehazi's proclamation, the air became thick with the expectation of wonder, as if the very heavens were holding their breath. The hearts of the people swelled like the sea, and murmurs of faith began to ripple through the crowd. "Who shall we trust?" some whispered, uncertainty clouding their hearts. Yet Gehazi, feeling the weight of divine conviction upon him, shouted again, "Trust in the Lord your God, for he is faithful, and his mercy endures forever. You have seen my scars, but I am a testament to his grace." At those words a woman stepped forth, her face streaked with tears of longing and hope. "O Gehazi, I have a son who is ill. Can the God of Israel heal him as he has healed you?" Her voice trembled like a trembling reed, yet her heart beat with a fierce yearning. "Come forth and believe," Gehazi called, motioning for her to bring her son. And though her heart was heavy with fear, she felt a spark light within her soul, urging her toward the truth. The crowd parted, and she made her way to Gehazi, where her son lay quiet and pale in her arms. "Father of the faithful," Gehazi cried to the one who sees all. He knelt before the boy, placing his hands gently upon him. "In the name of the Almighty, who parted the waters and led his people into life, I call upon you now." A hush fell upon the gathering as Gehazi uttered the prayers of lament and supplication. The eyes of the crowd were fixed on the boy, who remained motionless, but faith danced within their hearts. "God of Israel," Gehazi cried, "let your healing waters flow upon this child. Let revival spring forth that he may declare your glory." Suddenly, the breath of life surged into the boy, his eyes fluttering open like the petals of a flower kissed by the dawn. "Mother," he said, his voice a melody of hope. The people erupted in awe, their hearts igniting with a newfound faith as the boy sat up, restored to life. And the dark emissary of the king, watching from the fringes, felt the spirit of anger clawing at his heart. "This frenzy is but a sheer illusion," he bellowed, yet his voice faded into the rising chorus of praises. "Let us go to the waters," cried Naaman, his spirit yearning to lead the multitude. "For I have been washed clean, and in this same water there is life for all." The crowd surged forth like a tide drawn to truth, their feet pounding upon the earth as they moved toward the Jordan. Gehazi felt the fire of God's Spirit coursing through him as he walked among them, his heart ablaze with the call to awaken a generation. Then a sudden cloud covered the sun, and darkness briefly shrouded the land, as if heaven itself was weighing the earth's cries. For in that moment, Gehazi sensed the weight of a profound truth. God was unearthing a deeper mystery, hidden in the fabric of their redemption. "Can you not see?" he cried above the tumult. "The Lord is weaving our destinies together. He shall reveal his wonders in our midst, and bring forth a harvest of righteousness that shall shake the very foundations of this land." And as they reached the banks of the Jordan, a mighty rushing sound filled the air, like the roar of thunder heralding a storm. The people paused, their hearts pounding in unison, believing that the God of miracles was preparing a revelation that would change everything. What greater wonders would unfold as they stepped into the waters, poised on the edge of the miraculous? Would the Lord's hand turn the tides of their lives forever? The promise of revival lay just ahead, shrouded in the mystery of God's sovereign plan, and the people could scarcely contain their anticipation. And it came to pass that as Gehazi spoke the words of prophecy at the banks of the Jordan, the heavens trembled, and the very earth quaked beneath their feet. The multitude stood in hushed silence, their souls burdened with the weight of divine expectation. They sensed that a moment of truth was upon them, a divine reckoning that would unveil God's wondrous purposes. "Behold," Gehazi proclaimed, raising his hands towards the heavens, The Lord has promised us restoration. The waters of the Jordan are significant, for it is here that his power shall be displayed." The crowd leaned forward, straining to grasp the magnitude of what was to come as a sweet, fragrant breeze danced among them. Whispering of hope, Naaman stepped at the forefront, his heart emboldened by the healing he had received. "O Gehazi, may the God of Israel continue to show his great mercy. Let us step into the waters and declare our faith, for in him lies our deliverance." His words rang clear, resonating with the hearts of those gathered, inspiring courage where doubt had lingered. The waters of the Jordan glistened like molten gold, reflecting the fading light of the day. And as Gehazi led them into the water, a murmur of faith surged through the crowd. They made their way into the cool depths, each step carrying them closer to an uncharted territory of God's grace. With reverent hearts they began to wade in, the water swirling around them like promises yet to be fulfilled. Suddenly a trembling arose from within the water, as if the very currents had come alive with divine intention. The people gasped and looked to Gehazi, whose countenance shone with fervent awe. "Lift your voices," he urged, "for the voice of the Lord thunders over the waters. He will hold back the floods and dry up our despair." Then from the depths emerged a radiant light, breaking forth with the brightness of a new dawn. The multitude watched in astonished wonder as the water began to part, revealing a path dry and straight. "The God of Israel is here," Gehazi cried. "He is making a way for us." With renewed vigor the people stepped onto the dry ground, their hearts swelling with worship. Each foot that touched the earth echoed with prophetic significance, for they knew they were walking not just on soil, but on a promise, a covenant of hope and transformation. As they crossed over, Gehazi reminded them, "Remember this day, for as he has delivered us from the waters, so too will he deliver us from our afflictions. Our lives shall be a testimony to his faithfulness." Their spirits soared, for they had witnessed the miracle of the God who saves. Yet amid the exultation, the emissary of the king, still lurking in the shadows, breathed words of disdain. "What is this? Do these foolish people not see their folly? Their faith is but a fleeting dream." But beneath his defiance, trepidation brewed within his heart, for he felt the tremors from the waters. God's plans were at hand. As the people gathered on the shore, rejoicing in their salvation, Gehazi once more lifted his gaze to the skies, sensing that deeper mysteries lay beyond the horizon. "These waters," he declared, "are but a glimpse of the living waters promised to us all. There is a greater exodus coming, one that shall lead us to peace eternal, and the nations shall call us blessed." And as evening fell, the light of the day dimmed, but hope ignited within each heart. For unknown to them all, a profound moment in history was unfolding, a prelude to redemption that would transcend time. For God's sovereign plan had not only begun to unearth their destinies, but hinted at a promise far greater still. What awaited them on the morrow? Would they find the fulfillment of that promise, or would a test of faith rise to challenge them anew? And it came to pass that as the dawn broke over the land, a celestial brilliance illuminated the horizon, bathing the shores of the Jordan in golden light. The people, still aglow with the memory of the miraculous crossing, gathered in earnest anticipation, their hearts solemn yet hopeful. Gehazi, standing among them, could feel the weight of the moment pressing upon him. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice resonant with the urgency of the hour. "Yesterday, our God revealed his mighty hand among us. He has parted the waters and led us through, but there is more yet to be unveiled." A hush fell over the assembly, eyes fixed upon him, each soul attuned to the movement of the Spirit. As they congregated, murmurs of excitement and wonder spread through the crowd. They spoke of their newfound freedom and abundant grace, recounting how the God of Israel had championed their cause. In their midst, Naaman shared the story of his healing, each word laden with gratitude. "For I too have been delivered," he declared, "not just from my leprosy, but from the despair that lay heavy upon my heart. Let us therefore offer thanksgiving unto the Lord." And as he spoke, they began to lift their voices in song, harmonizing sweet melodies that floated heavenward, a fragrant offering to the one who saves. Yet even as worship poured forth, the emissary of the king slunk closer, his influence lingering like a dark cloud. Fools, he sneered quietly to himself. Do they not know that such joy will lead only to ruin? Unseen, the ember of doubt flickered in his heart as he felt the shaking of the ground beneath his feet, the repercussions of God's actions still reverberating in unseen corners. Amidst the celebration, Gehazi felt a stirring within his spirit, a depth of understanding unlocking, transcending the moment. Our exodus from Egypt was not the end, he proclaimed. Neither is this crossing the culmination of his promises. It is but the beginning. A greater exodus awaits us, wherein the chains of sin shall be broken and the hearts of many will turn towards the living God. His words pierced the hearts of the people, igniting an unquenchable fire. But then, like an ominous shadow creeping upon a sunlit day, fear gripped some who heard him. What if the trials are yet to come? They whispered among themselves. God's promises, though of peace, often accompany tests that refine. Gehazi, harboring their unspoken doubts, fervently prayed, O Lord, grant us boldness that we may face what lies ahead. And then it happened. A cloud darkening the horizon, a sudden chill in the air. The waters of the Jordan began to stir anew, not with the hand of deliverance, but with the threat of tumult. The people gasped, and Gehazi turned his eyes to the heavens, sensing a divine turning point. What is this, Lord? He implored, straining to hear the voice of God amidst the tumult. Then came a messenger clothed in urgency, a voice from the king's court. Gehazi, the king requires your presence. There are matters to discuss regarding the fate of this nation, and the words you spoke have reached his ears. The multitude murmured, and Gehazi felt the weight of expectation and trepidation. Will I stand before the king to defend our hope? He whispered to himself, understanding that the path ahead would become fraught with challenge. Yet in that moment he recalled the parting of the waters, the miraculous transformation that God had wrought among them. He lifted his eyes once more to the crowd, whose faces reflected anxiety and determination alike. Fear not, he declared boldly, for what lies ahead is a revelation of his glory. We shall not falter, for our God is with us. As they stood on the threshold of uncertainty, a divine hope began to flicker in their hearts. Would the king's heart be swayed towards the God of Israel? What further mystery awaited them in this unfolding story of deliverance? Indeed, the greater exodus lingered on the horizon, a divine tapestry yet to be completely woven, beckoning them to trust in his steadfast hands. And it came to pass that as the day unfolded, Gehazi stood before the mighty king, whose eyes narrowed in contemplation. The regal hall was thick with tension, the air heavy with the weight of expectation. The echoes of Gehazi's bold proclamations had reached the palace, stirring neither admiration nor reproach, but profound curiosity. You claim a God of power, the king stated, his voice reverberating off the stone walls. What purpose does this hold for my reign? And how shall we maintain our dominion amidst such tumult? Gehazi felt the pulse of the kingdom thrumming in his veins, a people yearning for hope in the face of darkness. Fueled by the fervor of his miraculous transformation, he lifted his head, ready to proclaim the truth. O king, the God of Israel does not seek dominion as men do. His kingdom is not established on earthly thrones, but upon the hearts of those who turn to him. Will you not choose to turn your heart toward him? For in doing so lies the key to enduring peace. The king regarded him, skepticism etched upon his brow, yet beneath lurked a flicker of intrigue. And should I listen to the words of a leper-turned-prophet? What assurance do I have that your claims are rooted in truth? The testimony of Naaman, whom the Lord healed, stands as a witness to his mercy. Gehazi replied, his voice steady, like a firm foundation. It is not merely my story, but a shared transformation that echoes through those who have come to God. The miracles bestowed upon our land are not just for the humble but for all willing to believe. At this, murmurs rippled through the assembly, hearts quickened by memory of the healing waters and the echoes of faith. The king's expression softened, suspended between doubt and revelation. And what would you have me do? Repent, O king. Surrender your heart to the one true God, Gehazi implored. Call upon him, seek his counsel. For as we turn our eyes to him, his power will manifest, and he will guide us through every trial. The trials may be great, but the victory will be greater still. As Gehazi stood resolute, the shadows of doubt began to recede from the king's heart. It was then that Naaman, fresh from his own testimony, stepped forward with boldness. Your Majesty, he called, I am a living testament of the healing that can come from faith in Yahweh. I once doubted like you, but the Lord revealed his mercy to me. He forgives, he restores, and he strengthens. The air crackled with anticipation as the king met Naaman's unyielding gaze, the pull of divine purpose drawing him forth. Gehazi sensed a shift, an opportunity unfolding before him, a divine appointment laden with potential for the nation. Let the people gather, the king commanded, a decision forming in his heart. We shall pray and seek this God of restoration. If there be more to his promises than mere tales, we too shall witness his glory. And therefore, the decree spread throughout the kingdom like wildfire, hearts ignited by a longing for something greater than themselves. The Israelites gathered at the banks of the Jordan, where the waters shimmered with expectations of faithful redemption. Gehazi stood among them rejuvenated and hopeful for the impending revelation of God's plan. As the multitude assembled, he raised his voice above the throng, proclaiming, Let us come before the Lord with humble hearts, for great is his faithfulness. They kneeled in solemn unity, the cries for mercy rising like incense to the heavens, filling the air with a resonance of desperate faith. Lord of the covenant, Gehazi prayed, come and dwell among us. Heal our hearts, restore our land. This day we choose you above all else. In that moment the heavens responded, a palpable presence surrounding them. The winds convulsed and a celestial brilliance cloaked the Jordan, signaling a moment when heaven and earth would collide in a display of divine grace. As they awaited God's answer, the waters began to swell, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. A voice arose from the depths, neither booming nor thunderous but gentle like a father's whisper. My people, I have heard your cries. You have turned back to me, and I will heal your land. As the crowd erupted in worship, the very fabric of their desperation became laced with hope. A river of healing surged. People fell to their knees. Defeated bondage washed away in a single encounter with mercy. And in the distance Gehazi caught a glimpse. A figure clad in radiant white drew near, unshackled by the confines of mortality, shimmering under God's embrace. The hair on his arms stood, the fullness of understanding dawning upon him. This was no ordinary moment. It was the convergence of past, present, and future, a living testament of redemption unfolding on the horizon. Yet in that encounter emerged a powerful truth, reflecting God's sovereign will. The miraculous was upon them. Each soul washed clean bore the weight of heavenly calling. Their hearts, freshly ignited by grace, were destined to carry forth the goodness of God beyond their borders. As Gehazi reflected on the miraculous moment, he felt the profound implications of what was unfolding. It was not merely a gathering of the afflicted, but a united front against the darkness. The need for the world around them, the trials they faced, transformed into stepping stones for faith as God's redemption loomed larger than any adversary. And so it was that in that sacred communion, a new chapter was written in the story of Israel, bound together by faith and the unbreakable ties of God's love. They would rise not as mere survivors of despair, but as warriors equipped with the truth, witnesses to the great deliverer, forever changed by the grace that had washed over them. O beloved people, let it be known that even amidst the chaos of today, the same God who parted the waters reigns in our hearts. The call to seek him is ever present, the promise of restoration always at hand. As we walk forth in faith, let us bind together, proclaiming the truth of his power to awaken many more souls, leading all toward the light of his glory and the folds of his grace. And as the sun sank below the horizon, awakening a firmament full of stars, Gehazi looked out over the people with unwavering confidence. The time has come for our faith to ignite a fire that shall not be extinguished, he declared. For God's promise is true and liberation is here. And so they celebrated, hearts emboldened, spirits alight, for the story of redemption was far from over. It was beginning anew, each moment pregnant with the promise of His sovereign plans yet to unfold. As you find joy in this account of God's faithfulness and empowerment, heed the urge to carry forth His message. For if you too believe in the miracle of His grace, this is the moment to share His story. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that transform lives. Leave a like now and help spread God's word through the algorithm, allowing His truth to reach many. Comment below and share your reflections. How has this biblical narrative impacted your faith journey? And do not wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's word and witness the miracle of transformation in all His children.